My name is Jonathan Opon. I am a medical doctor. Okay, so hepatitis is basically an inflammation of the liver, and we know that the liver is a very important organ in the body. It's actually the largest organ in the human body, and hepatitis deals with the inflammation of this very important organ. We have so many other causes, and whatever the causes, if it leads to an inflammation of the liver, then that's why we have the name hepatitis. Depending on the causative, issue, there could be drugs, there could be, viruses, there could be so many other issues. It could be autoimmune, which is something that deals with the body turning on its own self. So the liver cells could also turn on themselves, or the body could turn on the liver cells. And so the types are that way. Yeah. So depending on the cause, we have virus-induced hepatitis, drug-induced hepatitis. Depending on the type of hepatitis, mostly when we talk about hepatitis in Ghana, in our setting, we are talking about the virus-induced hepatitis. So we talk mostly about hepatitis B, which is one of the leading causes of actually mortality, morbidity in our part of the world. So it could be through birth. A mother who is infected could transmit it to her unborn baby. It could be through blood transfusions. It could be through unprotected sexual intercourse. And yeah, basically those are the rules. And of course, sometimes it's not very well known, but actually one cause that actually in Africa leads to the transmission of hepatitis to kids is through household contact. That's what we call the horizontal mode of transmission. You may, if there's an exchange of fluid, bodily fluid, so the virus gets into the bloodstream and it becomes a part of you. So if you are exchanging bodily fluids to that person, although it is not as well known as the sexual intercourse is well known, yeah, but we won't rule that out. Yes. We would like to talk about the most important preventive measure. If we talk about the other types of hepatitis, viral hepatitis, So hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E are the most known types of viral hepatitis. Hepatitis A is, transmitted through the oral fecal routes. That is to mean that hygiene is very important. So if we are able to take care of our hygiene and the food we eat and make sure that what we are eating is not contaminated, then we can prevent viruses such as hepatitis A and E, which is usually transmitted through the fecal oral routes. But when we talk about hepatitis B and C, then prevention will be to vaccinate, and that's the most important. It has been known that when kids get the virus when they are young, when they are born and they get the virus, then there is a 95% chance that they're going to get chronic hepatitis, which could lead to cirrhosis, could lead to actually hepatocellular carcinoma, which is cancer of the liver basically. So if people are vaccinated, which is very important, and I would like to reiterate that if people are vaccinated, it really prevents the transmission of hepatitis B. But apart from that, vaccination and making sure that you stay away from somebody is hepatitis, has got the hepatitis virus. When I say stay away, I don't mean stigmatize the person. I mean make sure that you're protected when you are dealing with the person. The good news and the bad news. I will talk about the bad news first, so that I can finish with the good news. The bad news is that very unfortunately we do not have a cure for hepatitis B as yet, and I want to emphasize the word yet, because for example for hepatitis C, quite recently it was thought that there was no cure for hepatitis C, but we have a cure now. There is a drug that takes care of hepatitis C. And when it comes to hepatitis B, what we can do is to cure hepatitis B, right? This is what we are talking about. To cure hepatitis B is that we can get drugs there are drugs that a person could take that would try to reduce the viral load. So the good news is that people can live really long. Just like anybody who lives, with the use of drugs. Like I talked about, I wouldn't want to mention the name of drugs because we will want people to go to the doctor, go to the hospital and get treatment, because you just can't go and take any drug on the market. In the beginning, it's asymptomatic. Sometimes when I say asymptomatic, that means that you will not see that you have anything. So sometimes you could just be walking about normally, but you might have the virus. And then from there we can move on to other issues, as in malaise. Sometimes you feel drowsy, sometimes you feel weak, sometimes there's this general sense of weakness, which is actually one of the early stages of that. But as it keeps going, as it progresses, and when there is serious damage to the liver, then you can have jaundice. Jaundice is when the yellowish coloration of the membranes of the body. That could be part of the hepatitis when it gets to a very bad state. The liver is also takes part in the clotting of the blood. So you might have blood clotting issues. You might have pain. The liver is located right here, at the upper quadrant, the left upper quadrant of the body. And so if you get hepatitis, which is an inflammation of the liver, of course, obviously, you're going to have pain and that's part of your body. There are so many other symptoms that we might not be able to talk about, but itching could also be part of hepatitis.
Itching.
Yes, kind of interesting, but if you get something like that, when it gets to a bad state, then itching could be a part of it. Yeah, there are so many other symptoms that we might not be able to talk about. Yes, it's possible. So there is the acute and there's the chronic stage of hepatitis. So when you contract the virus from which other means, you test positive. So there are some markers that will test you positive, and sometimes the body eliminates it on its own. But you can also be vaccinated and you can be given some immunoglobulins. Those are things in the body that help to fight away, the antibodies in the body that help to fight away this. So if you are treated immediately, after a while, you'll be able to clear the virus from out of your bloodstream, and then you could test negative, which usually happens to mostly adults. And that's why, but for kids it's different, because as a kid, if you contract it as a kid and you're not vaccinated, there's a very high chance that it's going to remain with you for long, and that will lead to chronic stage, which could, like I said, lead to cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So yes, you can get positive, you can be positive, and you can be negative. That's why it's important that you can go to the hospital where you'll be given either a vaccine or the immunoglobulin, which is an antibody that fights the virus. So you can go to the hospital and then see and make sure that you get the vaccine. It's possible, yeah. Hepatitis B, unfortunately, kills. It kills when it is taken, when it goes to the chronic stage, and then from there when it leads to hepatocellular carcinoma, and then to liver failure, then it can kill. Yeah, about 600,000 people die from hepatitis. And to talk about the prevalence rate, we have there are groups. So we have the very low prevalence rate, the medium, and then the high prevalence rate. And unfortunately, in Ghana, the prevalence rate is over 8%. Normally, the low is below 2%, the medium is under 7%, and the high is 8%. But in Ghana, according to a study that was made recently, it's about 12.1%. So that is, it's way above the high prevalence rate. So you can imagine that many people, unfortunately, would lose their lives from that. But if somebody is vaccinated when they are young, then it reduces the chance of they contracting the virus drastically to over 95%.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid, or if you know somebody who has a kid, make sure that they vaccinate their kids. And if you're an adult, make sure that if you suspect that you might have come in contact with somebody who has the virus, you might have taken a blood donation from somewhere, or there might have been a transmission, then make sure that you go to the nearest hospital, go see your doctor, and make sure that you run a test to be sure whether you have it or not. If you have it, they'll just give you a vaccine and some antibodies, and then sometimes the body just flushes it out on its own, but you need to get the advice of a medical professional so that you don't run the risk of getting the virus. One of the non-viral causes of hepatitis. So alcohol is also one of the important sources of hepatitis. Too much alcohol, like we say, too much of everything is bad, right? So too much of alcohol would inflame the liver, because alcohol is detoxified in the liver. So if you are taking too much alcohol, then that means that you are causing damage to the liver, and it can cause hepatitis.